record. Okay, we're recording. Olivia Brown,
Yay.
Chelsea John, and Courtney Calloway are here. Hopefully Rami will be able to join us here before we finish. Chelsea, since you might have to head out a little early, hopefully we'll be done before 1:30, but do you want to go first?
Sure. So, I guess most of what I wanted to just talk about, I don't need to share bullet points from the reading with you guys because, I mean, you guys read it too, but I just wanted to share some of my own personal thoughts from things. And sorry if I keep cutting out. My parents' internet is not used to doing these things. But yeah, so I really liked in lesson 7, I think that was when we read chapter 3. I forgot to write the chapter numbers down. But I liked that it talked about establishing goals and standards before you measure progress and measure how, do your evaluation things. And I thought that it was just like a great life lesson in general too. Like, we can't become better people or better disciples of Christ or better mothers or better friends if we don't have those clear goals and something to work towards. And we can't measure if we are improving or not if we don't know what we're improving towards. And all of that reminded me of, I want to say it was like Stephen R. Covey that came up with these SMART goals or whatever, but it could be somebody else. I learned it on my mission, but just the idea of like that you want your goals to be, set specific goals that you can measure that are attainable and reasonable and timely. And so I just thought that like that all fit really well with what the chapter was about too.
Gotta love SMART goals.
Yes. Yeah. I liked when it said, why do we have a code of ethics? And it mentioned that it's because we can do harm as family life educators. And like that. Like, of course that makes sense, but, I never thought, we can do harm as family life educators. But I guess it helped me appreciate why we have ethical principles, because at first I'm like, well, why can't people just be good people all around? It's like, even the best intentions, you could do harm as you're trying to help somebody. So making sure that we all have the same ethical good people standards and principles are good. And I liked the questions when it mentions that the 3 different categories of ethics: the rational ethics, principles, approach, and virtues ethics. And it just explained that each of those answers a different question. And I thought that what principles shall guide my interactions? How shall I deal with ethical dilemmas? What characteristics are important for me to embody? And I thought that those were just good for life in general and not just family life education, because I think just in general, how do we want to interact with people? What are we going to do when certain situations come up? It's always a good idea to have your own code of ethics for life too.
And I hadn't thought about the different levels of ethics as well. I thought that was something as I went through these chapters.
Yeah.
The layers.
Yes. Very many layers. So I really appreciated the articles on the line between family life education and therapy, but I'm still just as in my confusion, if that makes sense. Because it seems like these professionals are not agreeing on where exactly the line is or how to define it, and they say, yes, it's really hard to find where that line is and where that boundary is that you shouldn't cross. And so I guess it just helped me feel a bit more at peace on some things that I would want to do as a family life educator, but I didn't know if that would be appropriate. But after reading, I'm like, okay, well, this definitely would, and this definitely wouldn't. But it also just, helped me, I guess, feel less in over my head if professionals feel the same way. And
It's nice to know you're not alone, right?
Yes. Yeah. Especially when it's not just I could talk to you guys and be like, are you guys confused by this too? But, reading professional people in the field say, oh, this is how it is, and then another person say, actually, he was wrong, and this is how we adapt that. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the readings.
So I wrote in kind of my reflection on this week's readings something similar, where I said I felt like the first article, I felt like the definitions he gave between education and therapy were pretty clear, at least in the way that I think and understand. And then I read the Reconceptualizing Family Life Education, and I was like, wait, no,
yes.
I was like, okay, it totally confused me. And so, but I loved the definition he gave on how education deals with cognitive development, whereas therapy deals with personal experiences and difficulties. I thought that was a pretty clear separation and definition. And then, of course, the Reconceptualizing Family Life Education article was like, well, but he didn't account for this and for this and for this and for this. And, but my main takeaway from those readings was that little piece. And I liked that a lot. And then as for the other readings, I'd say my main takeaway, or my main kind of thought that I had, was in the professional ethics, so not this week's, but last week's readings we had to do in the appendix reading. It talked about virtue ethics and how a person needs to be morally competent. And it said that the most important characteristics for family life educators are prudence, caring, and optimism. And I just think of those three, the most important one is optimism. Not most important, they're all important and they all need to be there. But I feel like optimism is kind of the defining factor, because you can be very prudent and very caring. You can care a lot about what you're teaching and about the people you're teaching. But if you have a pessimistic or doubtful or just kind of a gloomy personality, then you're not going to be able to communicate hope to the people that you're teaching. And I feel like in family life education, that's one of the most critical pieces, is to be able to make people feel like there's hope for their family and for their marriage and for their children. And so I felt like that was probably the most important one. And yeah, I think that's all that I'll add.
I liked that, because when I read it, I was like, well, yeah, duh, optimism, and I kind of pushed that one aside, because I'm like, well, if you care, you'll be optimistic, but not necessarily. So I liked that you pointed that out to me, because I had kind of shoved it to the side. So thanks for that.
So, and I think it's important not only to have it as a family life educator, but just in general. I have a friend who, she actually lost her job because of her attitude on the job. She wasn't very pleasant. She was quite rude, and people just got sick of her negativity, and she ended up losing her job over it because she just was not very nice about it. And I'm like, it's important for everything, all of our relationships, our family relationships, our professional. I'm like, it is important that you have a good attitude and you have these basic qualities so that people can stand to be around you.
Absolutely. Sorry, guys. My son is. I'll be back. You guys keep going.
No worries. Yeah.
So
no, I know.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Well, I was just gonna say, my husband has had to fire several people just because of their attitude. To I mean, yeah, it's.
She's part of our bunco group, and it's when she's there, she just kind of as soon as she comes, the whole mood in the room just shifts, just because of how she is. And I'm just I could see it. I mean, I feel bad for her because she lost her job, but at the same time, you that's not acceptable to do that. You can't go and work somewhere and be rude to customers and be rude to your fellow employees and your boss. You can't, and then expect to have your job. I don't know. It was a sucky and I understand at the same time kind of a situation, but I know, like, this week
Yeah.
I really liked doing like, well, I don't think it was this week. I think it was like last week when we did the case studies. I
Oh
liked
yeah.
putting the knowledge that we have learned into use. And I had a really hard time with the second one because it was abuse. And one thing that we as family life educators are supposed to do is, first we're supposed to let them know, be open and honest about our intentions of being there. And from what I've seen personally from family life educators and people who have worked, is part of that being open and honest is informing them that you are a mandated reporter.
Yeah.
And so seeing that situation, you would have to report the abuse because it's obvious that there's abuse there, undoubtedly. And so it was like hard for me to be like, yeah, I'm going to have to go report this family. But I mean, you still want to be there and you want to be supportive, but just like how, like, I was interested in finding out like how it happens once you do make the report, what happens after that, like if you're still able to work with the family or if you have to not work with
Right.
the
Yeah.
family anymore. Like I was wondering what happens after the fact, because obviously that has to be reported.
Right.
And so I was like, how would that like change, and like what would you do as a family life educator once the report's made? So I've been trying to find out like what the protocol and stuff is, and haven't found a whole lot. I need to do more digging, but I've been busy
Well,
with
and
online
it's
classes.
yeah, it's hard too because it's not. I've done research like that before, like wondering, oh, how would this happen, and then get all of a sudden on like in a page saying, oh, who do you want to report? And I'm like, no, or
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
once I was looking for, we had a school project just to like we had to look to see if there were any sex offenders in our neighborhood, and I went to search, and apparently I clicked on the wrong link, and it was like, where do you want to register as a sex offender? And I was like, no, like,
I'm not a sex offender.
so, yeah, that was
I know.
just
I
one
don't
more
like
thing.
looking up the sex offender registry because it's.
We lost her.
Oh no, are you still there, Courtney? You paused and I don't hear you. Okay, we still don't hear you if you're asking if we hear you. Come back. But did you hear what she was talking about, Olivia? Okay. No, she was just saying how she really enjoyed the case studies last week, and especially the second one. And she was just wondering like what protocol is once you've reported abuse. Like, are you still allowed to work with the family? Are you like just done?
Does the family know you're the one who reported them?
Yeah, and she even mentioned that like part of being open and honest is even at the very beginning letting them know that you are a mandated reporter.
Oh, Courtney's back.
I don't know what just happened.
Hi, Courtney. I was just catching Olivia up to speed on what you said. Are you back? Oh no.
Like, none of my audio was working. It was like disconnecting. Sorry, I am back. So what were you just saying?
Okay.
Chelsea was just catching me up on what you had said.
Oh yeah. So I don't know if you. I don't know. I wasn't looking at the phone. I don't know when it cut out. Did you hear me start talking about how, like, for my communications class, I did my speech on. Did you hear that part, Chelsea?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So for my communications class, we had to do an affirmative speech, and I chose to do it on being a survivor of sexual abuse. And so it was crazy the amount of convicted pedophiles living in the United States. Like how many survivors there are. Like just the numbers astounded me. I'm like, oh, I don't even want to know.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy. I didn't know personally the effects of it, but just seeing how prevalent it is, even in my tiny little town, is overwhelming.
Yeah.
But yeah. One is for my hair issue and normal phone. But there was so much goodness. Like I liked learning about, getting a refresher on the ethics. I think I had to learn and do reports on the ethics in another class. So it was nice getting that updated refresher and being able to put because this is my last semester, being able to put everything I've learned so far to be like, okay, well, this is what you should do in this situation. This is how you should apply it. Oh, you got to report this. Like, okay. Now I see how it works. Like, kind of like, it just makes you understand our job as a family educator better. And I cannot wait to actually be out there doing it instead of just reading studies.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's cool to get just so close to the end and realize, like, oh, this isn't just something that you learn in a classroom. Like, this is going to be like my life.
Yeah. I'm super excited. 5 weeks. That's all we have left. 5 weeks.
Yes. Crazy. Well, were there any other thoughts? Are you still there? Okay. Well, if there are no other thoughts, I guess we can
Be
close.
done.
I'm all bummed that we haven't been able to really meet with Raimi a whole lot.
Yeah. She's quite difficult to get a hold of, so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was nice meeting with you girls, and I'm so excited for you guys, and hope your workshop goes off without a hitch. So.
Thanks. We do too. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
bye-bye.
Bye.